take a interesting, or one of the things that people come to you for a whole bunch. And let's say stop smoking. Well, to do a successful smoking session, you have to do a successful smoking pre-talk. I'll talk to you about it in a little bit. Let's say you've done the smoking pre-talk, you've done the induction, you've got them into somnambulism. And now you're ready to start to give them the transformational suggestions that'll help them become a non-smoker. Now, we can do this graphically. It's maybe easier to see it unfold. Now you're at the point where you're going to begin to start giving your suggestions. Well, you've given suggestions all along, but now you're giving the suggestions that they're paying you for. The first suggestion I give a person in a direct suggestion program is always the same. It's the one thing I want them to do the whole time that I'm working with them. What is it? Right. All right. Now we're going to, now, from this moment on, as we continue, I want you to just let every breath that you exhale to help and guide you to go deeper relaxed. That's number one, but it's light. It has no energy. The second suggestion is always the suggestion that states they've already achieved what they're paying me for. They've already achieved it. I'll say, all right, you are now a non-smoker, and you're going to remain a non-smoker for the rest of your life. And we're going to begin to work together now so your conscious and subconscious mind are aware of this. All right, that's light, but it's made this one stronger. Now every time a person exhales, they go a little bit deeper. But this one's pretty ineffective. It's not going to do anything. The third suggestion, whatever it is, first it goes back, makes number one stronger, then it's going to make the number two suggestion stronger, and it's light. Same thing. Fourth suggestion always goes back to number one, then number two, then number three. I don't care if you're going up to 873 suggestion. It's always going to go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 873. That's how the law of compounding works. But let me give you a technique that makes this so powerful of a method for helping people change. Anybody here good at math? I'm terrible at math. Well, there's some mathematical law that we're all unaware of that applies. It's one of those things that says to the sum power of something, you see. Well, think about this. If the law of compounding works like this, what would happen if we give them the second suggestion, you are now a non-smoker, you'll be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Then you say to the individual, we are now going to use a direct drive technique to saturate every part of your mind, your body, your spirit with the absolute knowledge of that as a true reality, of the ultimate reality, that you are a non-smoker. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a suggestion. I want you to shout this suggestion out with me. I want you to scream this suggestion out with me. I want you to shout this suggestion out with me silently in your mind with me. Let's begin. I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. 15 times. 15. Now you are compounding on top of a compound, on top of a compound, on top of a compound. What the devil is the mathematical formula here? I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is awesome. in how much it increases the power of that suggestion within the individual. If you do it 15 times, there is one thing that you should never do with this individual at this point. And that's offer him a cigarette. You probably would be hurt. But you won't do it. You won't do it. Well, you're an exception to the rule. Because I'll tell you why. When you start saying this, it begins to sound stupid to yourself. For most people. After you say it 4 or 5 times, you say, this sounds ridiculous. And you start cutting it back and cutting it back and cutting it back until your outcome has deteriorated. And you got to go back and figure out what's wrong. But there's a way. Yes, there is. There's a way to avoid all of this trouble. Penny goes, oh, good. You say to the person the same thing. We're now going to use a direct drive technique to saturate your subconscious mind with the awesome knowledge that you are a non-smoker. And you're going to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Well, I'm going to give you a suggestion. I want you to shout it out with me. I want you to scream it out with me, silently, in your mind. And this works much better if I'm not in the room. I'm going to press the button on this tape recorder. You're going to hear this suggestion and shout it out with me silently in your mind. I went down to Radio Shack and I bought an endless loop tape. Just a piece of tape that goes around in a circle. Never ends. It'll play from here to eternity. Well, that might be a musical or a song, but it'll play a long time. And I recorded, I think, 4 or 5 times on the 30-second tape or whatever it was. And then I said to him, okay, let's begin. Here we go. Now I changed the tense. I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. And I hit the play button. Now, shout it out silently in your mind, and I'll be back in a moment. And I leave the room. Now, this is a very interesting time for you. Because you want to stay opposite the door. Don't go far away. Because if you're out of the room for 2 or 3 minutes, how many times are they going to say this in 2 or 3 minutes? A lot more than 15 times. But what happens is they become emotionally involved. And you'll discover that once in a while, and this is the fun part, you'll be hanging around outside and silently in their mind seems to fade away. And all of a sudden you will hear, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. And you go, yeah, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. Hit it, Charlie. And I mean, they're excited about it. And then after a moment or 2 more, you walk in. You don't hit the stop button. It's too shocking. Pause. Hit the volume and slowly lower it down. And pauses are important. And then you go, and it is true. You are a non-smoker. And you are going to remain a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Silence. Now, they may think the session is over. And again, don't offer them a cigarette at this point. It could be painful. But it's not over. But you see how we've compounded that one suggestion so strong, so powerfully. Now you take your smoking patter. Everybody should have some good time-proven smoking patter. You take your smoking patter, and you know from your English classes when you were a child, or Spanish classes, it doesn't matter the language, the philosophy is the same. Each paragraph has one key sentence in that paragraph that really tells you what the paragraph is all about. Now what I recommend, are we keeping you awake? You're acting like Bob now, aren't you? What you do is you take that one sentence out. And what I used to do is I take the one sentence out of the patter and I typed it up on a sheet of paper. That every time I had a smoker, I just photocopy that sheet of paper, you see. Then what you would do is you would read the patter in a certain way, and I'll teach you how to read patter in a couple of days, the right way. Then when you're done reading the patter, you need to compound the patter. The patter is just given to them once. That's light. So now you whip out your sheet of sentences and you read them all of those sentences. Then you go back and you read them every third sentence. Cross that one off. Go back again, read them every third sentence. Cross that one off. Until they're all gone. Now you have totally compounded the patter. So you've compounded the primary suggestion with a direct drive technique. You've compounded everything. I mean, the patter you've compounded so strongly, it's amazing. Now you've really compounded this stuff tremendously within the individual. And again, now you are a non-smoker and you'll be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Now what are you going to do? Now, you go into the part of your hypnosis session that I call the Philadelphia lawyer part, where it's the summation before you emerge them. You are a non-smoker. You've chosen to be a non-smoker. Actually, I want to tell you something. And I use this for all, this sentence for all direct suggestion work. I'll say to the person, you know, I got to be honest with you. You didn't come here to stop smoking. That's only your conscious perception of why you came here today. I'll tell you the real reason you're here today. You're here today because you made a decision. No, even that's not true. You're here today because you made a final decision. And that's how I talk. You don't hear any hypnotic monotone out of this camper. And that decision wasn't to stop smoking. That decision was simply that you made up your mind to take back control of a part of your life that's been out of control for many years. Nobody has the right to control you. Nobody. Not your mother, not your father, not your wife or your husband, whichever the sex of the person is, fill it in. Not your boss, not your priest, not your rabbi. Nobody. That right was given to you and to you alone. And now you choose to take back control. No longer to allow those whoremongers in North Carolina who make this poison to live off of your blood, to poison your children. They don't hire people that smoke. They're out on their yacht laughing off of the money they make out of all the people lying in their coffins because of the poison they put out. And you're rejecting them. You've made the decision they're no longer part of your life. And you feel excited about that. You feel good about that. You wonder how in the world it's legal to sell that stuff when it's abject poison to everybody who sucks it into their lungs. But no longer can they live off of you. No longer can they laugh at you being under their control. You've taken back control. And no one, especially that filthy, disgusting, poisonous weed wrapped in a filthy piece of paper, control you. Never again. That's it. We get into that emotional feeling level mind.
Have they ever invited you next year to do some preaching over there?
Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. Now, they think they're done. But they're not. Because now you say, and now you'll remain a non-smoker for the rest of your life. Now in a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And at the count of 3, your eyes are open, you're going to become fully alert. Well, now they really think they're over. Forget about it. They're not over. All right, here we go. 1. Now go inside yourself. Take a deep breath and exhale. And as you exhale, feel all those poisonous toxins beginning to be exhaled out of your body. Every breath you take is healing. Every breath you take from now on is throwing those toxins out, is reinforcing no longer those people up there are going to laugh at your death, live off of your blood. You've taken back control. At the count of 2, you're really starting to feel alive. You're really feeling back in control. You feel that this is your God-given life and you're not going to lose a minute of it to those poisonous things. those terribly debilitating things. You've chosen no longer to exhale smoke into your baby's lungs and to poison your child. And you're going to give them the gift of health and life. And you feel excited. You feel so proud of yourself. And on the next count, your eyes are going to open, you're going to come fully alert. And they're going to open into a brand new world of a non-smoker. And you're going to feel better about yourself and your world than you have in many, many years. Get ready now. Here we go. Number 3. Now open those eyes. Fill up your lungs. Take a deep breath. Exhale that poison out and feel great. And they got this big smile on their face. And they think they're done. But they're not. Remember, we told you before, and maybe you didn't hear it, so I'll tell you again. When you emerge somebody from hypnosis, they are not out of hypnosis. If you're in somnambulism, it's going to take them 30 seconds after you 30 to 90 seconds, depending on how deep they were, to really get back to their full conscious ways. Now, that between that 30 and 90 seconds, they are still in a state of hypersuggestibility. A great time to continue giving them the suggestions, to putting the lid on the cake, if you will. So let's say Sheila here, 1, 2, 3, her eye, and all of a sudden her eyes open up, and then when you're dealing with a hypnotized client, they look at you and they all want to smile. They generally always look at you and smile. Did I do good? Yeah, you did good. So here's what you do. 1, 2, 3, eyes open. She opens her eyes, and this is called get in your face portion of the state, you say. You lean over and you go, look at me right here. Now the critical factor stays bypassed. They don't have a clue why you're pointing at the bridge of your nose. And you go, you are going to be a non-smoker. No one will ever be able to control you again. You've taken charge of your life. It's your life to control, not those people up there who would live and offer your kill you with their poisons. Not those people up there who don't care whether you breathe that poison into your little baby's lungs. No, you're a non-smoker. You're going to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. You feel good about yourself. You feel alive. You feel free. Yeah. And isn't that good? All right.
Glory, hallelujah.
There you go.
I'm telling you, somebody's in your face like that, you can't help but feel.
You betcha.
I'll do whatever you say.
And those suggestions are flying in there. That critical factor is bypassed like there's no tomorrow. That's how you do a direct suggestion session, folks. Not this. You do a progressive relaxation induction. You read them some patter. You have them open their eyes, and you give them a tape to listen to for 30 days. Do you see the difference in the technique?
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you think has a greater chance of winning?
I wouldn't dare start smoking afterwards.
I wouldn't.
There's no way. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't.
You betcha. Now, well, let's stick with smoking just a little bit and back it up to the beginning in the pre-talk. What really makes smoking work, a smoking session work, is you probably end up only working with maybe 50% of the people that come to you to stop smoking if you're doing it right. You see, people need to stop smoking for the right reason. And if they're not going to smoke for the for the right reason, they will be what we call whiners. I shouldn't stop smoking. I want to stop smoking. I don't know if I can stop smoking. Maybe I can stop smoking. I don't know. This type of thing, you see. So when they get in your office, I don't like rejection. I hate failure. And if I don't have a smoker quit smoking, it's my failure. I don't lay the blame on them if I've done my session correctly. Mm-hmm. Now, there's only one right reason to stop smoking. And I'll ask a person what the reason is. And they're going to give me all of the standardized reasons. Oh, I want to stop smoking because I'm afraid it'll kill me. Hey, listen, if that was enough motivation, you'd be off cigarettes a long time ago. Oh, I want to stop smoking because my doctor told me to stop. I don't care what your doctor said. I want to stop smoking because it's socially unacceptable. I don't care about that. I want to stop smoking because I'm tired of burning holes in my silk Givenchy shirts. I had the most wonderful silk Givenchy shirts. I used to love disco time, you know. I had these great shirts, gold chains. I looked cool. And just a little flick of ash back in those days, and bloom, you know. I want to stop smoking because it's socially unacceptable. People look at me strangely. I don't care about that. When are we going to get to the real reason that you want to stop? Well, what do you mean? Duh. And you got to give them the reason. I'll say, look, there's one reason. And I reach back in a waste paper basket. Now, you ought to have a waste paper basket, a small one that's filled at least 3/4 of the way up with old half-full packs of cigarettes. Now, the subliminal suggestion or the waking hypnotic suggestion is to people that come in your office, wow, all the people that quit smoking threw their cigarettes in there. That's what you want to have. Of course, when you first start out, you don't have that accumulation. So you go out and you buy cigarettes, different brands, empty half of the pack, and then fill up your trash can, get that illusion going. And then you reach over and you whip. What's the matter, Crystal? It's all waking hypnosis. You got to do it. So you go back and you whip out a cigarette. You say, here's the real reason. I want you to hold this in your hand and hand it to him. I want you to hold it up in front of your nose like this. Can you look at that cigarette and honestly say, now you can lie to me, you can lie to your husband or your wife, you can lie to your preacher or rabbi, you can lie to anybody, but you can't lie to yourself. I want you to look at that cigarette and tell me if you can honestly say, I don't like you and I don't want you in my life anymore. Now notice I'm not saying I don't like the taste of you. That's not what we're talking about. I don't like you and I don't want you in my life anymore. And if they say that, then you can throw them a little bit more if you want to, and if it fits, you can also tell it, I don't like the control you've had over me all these years. Now be honest, can you say that? And if the person says yes with conviction in their voice, then you got a winner on your hands. If they go, well, you know, I really do like it, then I send them home. Because I'll tell you something. Nobody will change anything about themselves until they have a readiness for change. Now, two things in abundance must be there to create readiness for change. Those two things are pain and suffering. And until a person has enough pain and suffering, they're the whiner. Like my mother-in-law. Of course, she won't see this tape, so I can't get hurt that bad. But if they say, yeah, I really mean that, then you've got a good subject for to stop smoking. But then you've also got to eliminate their fears. What is the one fear, the one really big fear that people have about stopping smoking?
They'll take it up again.
Nah.
They'll miss it.
Hmm?
They'll miss it.
Nah.
Gain fat.
Shout it out, Crystal. Get it in my microphone.
Gain weight.
They're going to get fat. I say to them, do you have any concerns? And they'll say, yeah, I'm really afraid I'm going to put some weight on. Or if they don't bring that up, you bring it up. You know, a lot of people are worried about stopping smoking because of weight gain. Are you concerned about that? You want them to get that out and say yes. So you can say at that point, well, you know, it's true. And you lose a lot of effect. You want to see your second most important class you should take if you want to be a world-class hypnotist is an acting class. Don't laugh. I'm serious. I'm serious as a heart attack. This is going to give you the real skills you need. And you say, well, it's true. And use any prop you got. Your glasses are good if you wear glasses. You go, you know, most people will put on 15 pounds when they stop smoking, as an average. And you look them in the eye and you see their shoulders slump and this unsaid, oh no, in their mind. Then you slowly put your glasses on if you're using it as a prop. And you look up and you say, but that's not going to happen to you. Matter of fact, not only are you not going to gain weight, if you feel you might want to lose a little weight, the weight will come off. Is that all right with you? But now you've made a statement that you can't say something like that unless you're going to give them a reason why you said something like that. Otherwise, it's just words. So now you got to give them the reason. So you tell them the story so they're educated. You educate them. Say, look, Barbara, do you know how cigarettes are made? Most people don't know how, so you need to educate them on how cigarettes are made and why weight gain comes on. Well, cigarettes, tobacco grows, and over the hundreds of years we've been growing it, it becomes more and more resistant to the anti-bug chemicals, and there's a tobacco weevil out there that adapts to the chemicals, and so we always got to make them stronger and leave them on longer. And if all we did was take the tobacco leaves, dry them, put them in a cigarette, you took a puff, you'd roll over and be dead in about a minute and a half with all that poison on there. So they've got to get the poison off the leaf before they can dry it. Now, what they did is, back in the old days, they made it was like a trench, and it went down like this, kind of like a swimming pool, only skinny. And they had like Granny's clothesline on it. It would go down this way and up this way on pulleys. And back in the old days, they used to clip the tobacco onto a cable, and black slaves on each side of this, with poles connected to the cable, would walk it down each side, and they would shake it and shake it and shake it, and it would come out the other side. But it really didn't help. They had to have an additive to the water, and they discovered through whatever method that a really crude industrial molasses added to the water would attach to the poison molecules, and it was heavier than the water, and it would sink to the ground. So they added this, and they shook this leaves, and they came out the other side cleaned of the poison. Now the same thing happens today, but of course we don't use slaves anymore. It's all electronic, and they use ultrasound to vibrate the leaves, and boom, it comes out the other side. Then they take them, and in the old days they used to put them in the drying shacks. If you ever drive up 301 on the East Coast in the old days, you saw these buildings. I always thought they were just built bad because the clapboards on the side didn't come together. But they were drying, that's where the air was able to go through and dry the tobacco, you see. Nowadays, again, they don't need that. They use infrared heating lamps, and they dry these things off really, really quick. So the whole process has changed. Now that's packaged into the smoking material you smoke. And you get home, you get your pack of cigarettes. But what is the one thing they didn't do that needed to be done? There was still a molasses residue on the tobacco. So every time you inhaled smoke, your subconscious mind got a taste of sweetness. So and how many times would that be? If you're a 2-pack-a-day smoker, and there's 20 cigarettes to a pack, that's 40 cigarettes a day. How many puffs to a cigarette? Let's say for the sake of easy math, 10. That's 400 injections of sweetness a day. And you're going to want to fill in, if all we do is remove the desire for smoking and not remove the desire for that sweetness at the same time, you're going to find you're going to be eating a lot more. Not necessarily sugar, because there's natural sugars in a lot of foods. You're just going to be eating like there's no tomorrow. And you're going to get fat as an elephant. Huh?
I wish I would have had you for my stuff.
You're going to get fat as an elephant. Then I lean over to the person, and I usually take my glasses off, and I put a very sincere look on my face. And I say, Sheila, while we're doing the smoking session, would it be okay with you if I removed your need for that regular injection of sweetness? Would it be okay so that maybe you could lose, if you want to, whatever amount of excess weight you think you might have? Would it be okay if I did that?
Yeah.
I have never had anybody say, no, I want to be fat as Cleveland. You know? And so you look like the hero. Now, there's only one real problem with that whole technique. And I'll show you what it is here, if I can find it. The back of this manual of mine is, there it is. The only problem with this is, I'm sorry, Mom. The whole story I made up.
You mean about the molasses?
Yeah, about how you make cigarettes in the whole 9 yards. But sounds good, doesn't it? Sounded like... I even had a little girl in there once whose father was in the tobacco manufacturing business, and she said, "Oh, I always wonder how Dad did that." But I made it up, but it worked. And it was an evolution of story over the years. But, so I don't leave you totally disappointed in me, not too many classes ago, about 4 classes ago, this lady's in the back of the class, and she has this quizzical look, kind of like the way Marianne has quizzical looks all day. Ooh, that's interesting. So the next day she comes to class, and she says, "Mr. Kine." And I said, "Yes." And she says, "I'd like to talk to you about your tobacco story." I said, "Oh man, I'm going to get beat up now." She goes, "You told us that you made it up. But whether you realize it or not, your story is ultimately correct." And she says, "I just want to show you something that I took out of a magazine last night that I thought you would be interested in." And it's an advertisement for Winston cigarettes. And it says, "What's another leading brands of tobacco? Propylene, glycol, cocoa, licorice, sugar." Cocoa, sugar, and other additives, whatever that may be, you know. But she says there is sugar and plenty of it. So I believe that somehow, through the invisible universe, you were given the accurate information, and you just processed it out to us in a different way. But you're absolutely correct. And there would be a residual of sugar and sweetness in the tobacco. Do you think that's true? And of course I was ready to jump on that in a heartbeat, sure, so I look good, you see. But it is true. And there is sugar and sweetness in the tobacco. Whether it leaves the residual in the subconscious mind or not, we'd have to leave to the experts. I'm sure the tobacco companies would say no chance. So you can use that story if you have the courage, if it fits your personality, and if you can keep a straight face, because that's what's really required. So take your acting class. Okay. So the law of compounding. You see how powerful it can make things change? Kids, I want to promise you this. I'm going to tell you this. As you move your, and I don't care whether you're using it in medicine, I'm going to lift your hand and drop it, and this anesthesia is going to be twice as deep. Lift the hand and drop it. Well, I'll do it again. Now watch what happens. Now I'll do it again. Watch what happens. Compounding, compounding, and the anesthesia gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Doesn't matter.
Then how is it that Elman, without any compounding, was able to do that test in the guy's mouth with a pick thing that should have really hurt, and it didn't? There was no compounding. It was just somnambulism.
That's
and,
all.
Okay, now go test him.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
It was deep somnambulism, and when you have somnambulism, a suggestion of anesthesia will be there. You can deepen it if you want to. And he didn't have to. He had plenty of depth of trance. You don't have to compound something that you already have. And somnambulism basically will give you anesthesia. And you may have to go deeper, you may not. But he can, you know, you could look at people and you can tell exactly, with a little bit of experience, you can tell how deep they are. And you know when you see a person and their eyeballs are going like this, got a bing, got a boom, got a bang, don't worry about your Alice clamps. You're there, you see. And that just comes with a little time and experience in the chair. But I'm going to promise you that you can make a lot of mistakes in technique with hypnosis. You can goof up all over the place and not be perfect. Don't think you have to be perfect. You have to focus on the highlights. If you remember in direct suggestion, if you really want success, bang, somnambulism. 2, compounding a suggestion. 3, the pre-emerging interview where you're giving them that TEAM yay team. And 4, that get in the face thing where you're again compounding has a name. It's not called get in your face. It's called the post-hypnotic interview. The post-hypnotic interview. And you do the post-hypnotic interview. If you do a session that way, boy, it's going to be real hard for you to have failures. Can I repeat them again? Absolutely. When you're doing a direct now at the end of the advanced class, I'm going to hand you out a graphic on a piece of paper. That's, it's like a tree. You start off with a pre-talk, boom, boom. If you're going to do direct suggestion, you do this, this, and this. If you're going to do regression, you do this, this, and this. So you can tack it to the wall while you're working with the person, and it'll be a good guide for you. Okay, but it's basically this. You hypnotize the person, you get somnambulism. Okay? Probably you want to deepen a trance with a countdown. Then you want to go ahead and do your compounding of the primary suggestion. The primary suggestion is what they're paying you for. You are now a non-smoker. You'll be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. And you compound it with the direct drive. Then you read them the patter. Or if you know it by heart, you say the patter to them. Then you repeat every sentence. Not every sentence, but the key sentence in each paragraph. Then you do that again and eliminate every third one each time you do it until you run out of sentences. Now the pattern's compounded. Then you do your pre-emerging TEAM team, the summation you want to call it, the pre-emerging summation. And then you want to do your post-hypnotic interview. And there is an outline for a powerful, powerful direct drive session. Does it always work? No. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work for one of two reasons. One, the person really didn't want the change. The husband stopped smoking and he went home and bugged the wife. You got to stop. You're stinking up the house. Blah, blah. Go see Jerry. She don't want to stop, and she's forced in there. And she's saying, yes, 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 I want to stop. But she's lying. She doesn't want to stop. Like this man came to me once, and he's in deep somnambulism for smoking. And I see his eyeballs going bada bing, bada boom. I says, cool, here we go. And so I start giving him the anti-smoking suggestions, and I know he's not accepting the suggestions. How did I know? Just another little thing I forgot to tell you is a great lie detector test, or not a lie detector test, but a test as to whether they're taking suggestion or not. If you have that boom, 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 if you give them a suggestion and it stops, they've rejected that suggestion. So you move on, and bada boom, it goes again. You give another suggestion they don't want, and it stopped. Well, I noticed as soon as I started giving this guy the suggestions, they stopped and didn't start again. So I said, open your eyes. I said, who are you kidding? I know you're not accepting these suggestions. What's going on? He smiled. He goes, yeah, you're right. I said, what's the story? He says, my wife has been bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. I says, well, I know you love hypnosis. You've been in hypnosis lots of times before. He goes, you bet. I love the feeling of deep hypnosis. He says, but I love smoking. I don't want to stop. I said, okay. I said, you've broken my chops. You spent a lot of time here. It's lunchtime for me. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put you back in deep hypnosis with a self-deepening technique. Shirley and I will go to lunch. I'll come back and emerge you. We'll lock you in. And you can have that wonderful time in hypnosis. And then I charge you the fee, and you go home and tell your wife it didn't work. He sounds great to me. Blap, get on down there. We're off to lunch. We come back. The guy looks like he bought property in the Cleveland waterfront. Merged him, took his money. Actually, I charged him an extra $25 as an aggravation fee because he didn't tell me the truth. He said, oh, okay. And that was that. So if they don't want to be there, that's not going to work. It just won't work. Or if you didn't give them the correct instructions, they're confused. Or if the cause of the problem, if they have a cause that's significant, that the cause needs to be dealt with before you can handle a problem, then you have to deal with it then it's not a direct suggestion session, you see. You've got to deal with it another way. Okay, any questions? So do the compounding and you'll be a great direct suggestion hypnotist. And once you stop compounding suggestion, you'll know your outcome doesn't do so good anymore. Separates the pros from the amateurs. Make no question about this. Now, before we pair...
I'm getting bored.